The Chicago Bears have already had a pretty busy offseason so far as they're looking for their next offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, which both of them have interviewed candidates, so that's great. But on top of that, they're looking to re-sign defensive back Jalen Johnson, and they're going to be shopping that #1 overall pick. Bears had the #1 pick last year, which they traded back for with the Carolina Panthers and swapped first last year, which ended up being Darnell Wright. Bears got a second, which ended up being Tyreek Stevenson. They got DJ Moore, who had a career year with the team this past year. Then they got the #1 pick this year. They only traded first rounders. No one knew that, but worked out in the Bears' favor. And then on top of it, the Bears got a 2025 second. And out of that trade, all three players were starters, all performed at a very high level. And you had a guy who had a career year in DJ Moore, which is absolutely awesome. On top of it, the Bears got another pick this year and another pick next year, totaling for 3 years of picks. And if I'm Ryan Poles, knowing I have that #1 pick and knowing how important this draft is to a ton of teams, I'm going to be taking a massive haul, bigger than that one for the #1 pick. And the Atlanta Falcons, who have a ton of problems, who do need to reset, who might be bringing in a new head coach, would want that #1 overall pick. And guess what? They can give me a haul. On top of it, they also have someone in the building that trades way too much to move up. And if Atlanta's calling me for that #1 pick, they better come offering. Because moving 7 spots, literally again like the Panthers, it's going to take a lot. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and as always, thank you for tuning in. Today, I am going to run through a trade back with the Atlanta Falcons to help solidify this team moving forward. And before I begin today's episode, if you want the Chicago Bears to trade back that #1 pick instead of using it on just one player and getting an absolute haul, make sure to hit the like button on this video to show your support and if you're behind that, along with commenting who you want the Bears to trade back with. And as always, please hit that subscribe button. We just hit 12,000. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Now that we hit 12,000, we'll be doing another giveaway, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you subscribe to the channel and you're new to the channel, you automatically enter for all giveaways moving forward. So let's break down Atlanta's situation. The Falcons currently have about $29.9 million in projected cap this upcoming offseason, so not a terrible position. They do have money, and if they were much closer to contending, I would say, hey, just go in, get 2 more big players out of free agency, and go for it all. But Atlanta is not in that type of position. They have a very young team. They don't have a true quarterback. You know, Taylor Heineke, he's not the guy. He's a good journeyman guy, but he's not the guy for Atlanta moving forward. Atlanta's going to want a new quarterback. On top of it, they might be getting Bill Belichick. They just did 2 interviews with him. So the team has a lot of things that they could do with the direction, but they are not ready to compete for a Super Bowl. And if they do bring in a quarterback like Caleb Williams, along with bringing in a head coach like Bill Belichick, they're going to want to start from the ground up and build around Bill and whoever they take as a quarterback. So Atlanta might want to solidify that with Belichick, probably a conversation that they've had in those interviews, and they're going to be calling Ryan Poles for that #1 pick. And if I'm Ryan Poles, this is the trade I would accept. I would send them the #1 pick, but I would need Atlanta's #8, #43, #79 from the Jaguars that Atlanta owns, tight end Kyle Pitts, a 2025 first and third, and a 2026 second. So before I get more into why Kyle Pitts as my veteran in this situation, let me break down the trade a little bit more and why. The #1 pick's value has never been higher. With how the market has become sending hauls to different teams, this pick is worth a ton, especially with likely 6 other teams calling the Chicago Bears ready to send hauls, big or small. They know that they're going to have to do whatever it takes in order to get that pick. And if they want a guy like Caleb Williams, who is going to instantly, take your value of your franchise to the next level because of jersey sales, season ticket holders, just overall media coverage, you're going to make a lot of money. A lot of general managers and front offices think this way, so they're going to want the best for themselves, but also the franchise. That is why trading for that #1 overall pick could be good for the future, because you could get the next generational quarterback in Caleb Williams, but also you're building your franchise, you're making it bigger, you're making it more valuable. I know it's not a great way to think, but we all know it's the truth. And obviously, look what Carolina sent us. I mean, I added 2 more picks technically, and they sent a guy who was under 25 years old, like Pitts. So it's not too drastically different, but we all know that there is Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft. So if they're going to want that, they're going to have to trade for it. So going off of that reasoning, let's go a little bit more into Kyle Pitts and why I want him. Pitts is becoming one of the league's best tight ends and was a great prospect coming out of Florida a few years ago. 53 receptions, 667 receiving yards, a 12.6 yard per catch average, and 3 touchdowns last season for the Falcons. He is also a big, strong target with great hands and fights for yards, and he's only 23 years old. He was the 4th overall pick in 2021 out of Florida, kind of like a Brock Powers kind of vibe, which, you know, yes, he hasn't totally lived up to expectations. He was injured last year. He doesn't have a ton of touchdowns like other tight ends do. He has a lot less than Cole Kmet. But overall, he's a fantastic blocker, super athletic. Atlanta also just hasn't had a true quarterback to throw to him. So you bring him to Chicago, who's likely going to get one of the best offensive coordinator minds that you can hire this upcoming offseason. If they stick with Justin Fields, great. If they don't stick with Justin Fields and go with a quarterback in this upcoming draft, you're still going to have a great quarterback that's going to be throwing to you. You have another good wide receiver in DJ Moore that's going to help spread the field, and a good mentor in Cole Kmet. So overall, it's just a great pairing to bring Kyle Pitts in. But I also do think he is performing well in the NFL. He was one of the highest receiving yards tight ends this past season. And also, he's only 23, and you can pair him with Kmet for the next 4 years if you want to extend him. I mean, like, come on. That's a huge opportunity to be super young, have the best of the best, and then have the number 8 and number 9 pick in this upcoming draft. Bears could be in a fantastic position. There's also top wide receivers out there. There's also, I mean, like, it's not Marvin Harrison Jr., but you can get like a Malik Neighbors. You can get a Keon Coleman. You can get, you know, Roma Duze, like a ton of guys at that 8 or 9 pick. You can get a top lineman. You can trade back again and get more. There's a ton of situations that the Bears can do. But getting Pitts solidifies tight end. You can focus on the rest. And also, you have a ton of picks next year. You have more picks this year, mid-round. Overall, just a big win for the team. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts about what you think about this blockbuster trade if it were to happen. But with that, thank you as always for tuning into this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde, and as always, bear down, baby.